Southeast Texas, the Houston Astros actually swept the Mets. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Believe it or not, we're here to talk about Astros minor leagues. And sometime this evening, Forrest Whitley will be taking them out. I've got Jimmy from Astros Future here. He is a preeminent voice on all things Houston Astros minor league baseball. We're going to talk about the rising stars, the movers, the sleepers, and who he thinks will touch the diamond at Minute Maid Park. Hang out with me now, and I'll explain later. We'll do a Mets recap later this evening, but let's talk minor league baseball right now.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Heisman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chansey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we're your daily Astros podcast. I'm H-Town Wheelhouse. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at H-Town Wheelhouse. You can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros. I've got with me Jimmy from Astros Future. Jimmy, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at Astros Future, and you can find me on my website, astrosfuture.com.
Oh, good. Good deal, Jimmy. So we are here, and we're going to talk minor league baseball. I know a lot of people probably want to talk Mets. They probably want to talk Astros, but we'll get to that. I'll get to that later on this evening. I actually brought Jimmy on so that we could talk Astros minor league baseball as he gets – that's okay. Go ahead and get that situated. No, you're good. Hold on one second. All right, so we're gonna talk Astros minor league baseball. We are going to try to figure out who the movers, who the shakers are, who the Houston Astros have in their farm system that it will are going who's going to move the needle, basically. Okay, so I brought Jimmy on. I'll do a live show later on when we talk Astros baseball. We're going to talk Mets later on, 9:30 live. So check us out again. We'll do 2 live shows. And we'll go from there. So right now we're trying to clear up some technical difficulties here. Hey, what's up, guys? How about the Astros? So, Mr. Corona, you have a question, and when we get Jimmy back in here, trying to get some technical issues worked out, you are asking, should we give up Korey Lee like many people have because he's not producing the numbers that people expect? And I'll bring Jimmy up here in a second. It looks like he is ready to go. Hey there, Jimmy. How you doing, bud? Uh-oh. Yeah, so, all right. So, right now, again, we're trying to work through some... Oh, it's muted on my end. Okay, interesting. Okay, Jimmy, go ahead.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
All right, yeah, okay, sorry
right.
about that. Hey, man, this will be fun audio to clip. It will be hilarious to watch on YouTube. So thank y'all for hanging. Hey, technology is not always the answer or the key. Sometimes it is the thorn in the side. So, Jimmy, before we get into any questions, let's go ahead and tackle Mr. Corona's question, because this is something that's been talked about. Korey Lee has not been hitting at the clip that is expected. Now, while you can say he kind of has the power numbers, he's got the cannon for the arm. When he does get hits, he gets on, he gets doubles, he hits home runs, but he's not hitting frequently enough. And we know all about the offensive woes of the catching position in the major leagues. Korey Lee, does he come up to the Astros at some point this year? Does he have to hit at a high clip before he even makes that next step?
I do think he's going to come up at some point. I definitely thought he was going to make his debut this year. And yeah, the numbers haven't been maybe as good as they were last year, but turn it around a little bit, and then next thing you know, maybe he'll get an opportunity. But I think what people need to look at too is just remember, it's his first extended stay in AAA, and some guys do struggle when they go up. I was just looking at stats today. Jose Ramirez is one of the best hitters in all of baseball, and his first 3 years in the majors were a struggle. Some guys just take a little while to get it going. So no, I definitely wouldn't give up on Korey Lee, like you mentioned. Still hitting for a little bit of power. Still showing off the defense, the arm behind the plate, but ultimately he's going to have to hit just a little bit more, but there's still plenty of time. I think he's only 23 years old, so still plenty of time for him to turn it around.
Yeah, definitely. I know there were some things in regards to him, some questions because maybe I guess lack of experience at that position when he first came up. What are you hearing from pitchers that have used him as their battery mate? Do guys like Dubin and Kanine and Solomon, do they have solid things to say about Korey Lee and how he manages the game?
So it's I haven't really got the opportunity to ask about that specifically, but
Okay.
from everything I can tell, yeah, I mean, I think they enjoyed throwing to him. He's a really good receiver behind the plate. He's very athletic for the catcher position. We've seen him play a little bit of outfield as well, third base last year, but very athletic, good arm. So he's going to be able to get those guys off. Trying to steal second base and such. So I would imagine guys do enjoy throwing to him, and just kind of looking at some of the rapport that I think him and Hunter Brown have developed this year, you can kind of see that.
Yeah, definitely. So when we talk about these organizations, we talk about rising stars. If I use the term rising stars in the Astros minor league system in a kind of beleaguered weekend system, no, it's not. And it's one of those things where who are the rising stars? Like, who are the guys that we should really be watching moving up through the ranks? Whether it's from Fayetteville to Asheville, Asheville to Corpus, Corpus to Sugarland, Sugarland to Minute Maid. Who are those rising stars that are really catching fire?
Well, one, I think we've kind of seen a little bit. Just got that promotion to AAA. Jainer Diaz, man, the guy can hit. Another catcher. I'm not 100% sure if he sticks at that position. The Astros have kind of, they've employed a little bit of a platoon back there with the catchers, him and Barry Hill down in Corpus Christi, and now it'll be Diaz and Lee in AAA. But the guy can hit. He's hit for power. He doesn't strike out. Really good hitter. We'll see if he, like I said, see if he stays at catcher or first base even. But he's one. Emmanuel Valdez, another guy that just got that promotion to AAA. The guy is, man, he's been phenomenal this year. I think he's still hitting close to 360. Despite that promotion to AAA, had a 3 home run
Wow.
game earlier this season, leading the Astros system in home runs. He's been phenomenal. Really, now for him, it's going to be where does he play? And that's the problem as these prospects come up. Is for the most part, every position on the Astros roster is kind of set in stone, except for center field. There's been a little bit of turnover, and then we'll see what happens in maybe a catcher in the near future. But yeah, man, there's a lot of good performances this year. Another guy I want to talk about, Justin Dearden. He's down in Double-A and just crushing. He's 24 years old. But he's sitting, I think, 307 now. He's got 22 doubles, which leads the Astros system. 11 home runs. And the guy just hits. He hits the ball hard, and he plays all over the outfield, left field, center field, right field. So he's another guy to watch for sure.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about him. I know that he hits a cover off the ball whenever we talk to guys like Endersby, Perez, that are down there. Joe Record, they've talked about him. He's definitely one of those names. Then I mean, you have guys here in town in Sugarland like Hensley. Seems like a nice like a really good hitter. He just hit a walk off in the 10th inning, a 3-run bomb, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like that. I know Endersby is one of the guys that I believe that Lindsay from Locked On MLB Prospects has talked about, one of the 3 sleepers that he thinks is out there. That the development of his 12-6 curveball is absolutely phenomenal. Now, question: Alex Santos, is he injured right now?
So they haven't actually put him on any kind of like injured list. I know he got pulled from his start. I believe it was in the first or second inning, or maybe the first inning. It was really early on. But I saw the next day one of the photographers had posted some pictures. He was in the dugout in full uniform, smiling. So it didn't appear, if he was injured, it didn't appear that it was that serious. He hasn't pitched since, but we'll find out here in a couple of days because his spot will probably be coming up.
Yeah, and he really has a lot of promise. And he is one of the, I guess, hottest arms that come out of New York in the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one guy that I really think that has a bright future for the Houston Astros. Again, Jimmy exited, and he'll be right back. We're having some technical difficulties here. See if we can get him back. All right, Jimmy, how you doing?
Good, man. So I don't know
Okay,
what's
there
going
you go.
on.
No, I'm serious. I believe it is the technology. We won't badmouth any company, but there's certain technology that we're using that is not making it easy on us. So Alex Santos, he's got a lot of promise, got a bright future. I know Quincy Hamilton just moved up. Are there any guys like that maybe people don't really know about that you're like, hey, this is a guy that y'all need to keep an eye on. Barry Hill, from what I understand, is on the heels of AAA because Barry Hill is really hitting the cover off the ball. And I don't know if when he came in, people are like, ooh, this guy's going to wow everybody, right? But Barry Hill's getting it done. And it's not about what you can do. It's about what he's doing for me lately.
Yeah, and he's been great. I think he's on like a 50 on base streak, 50 game on base streak, something like that. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, no, he's been really good. Justin Dearden, I just talked about him, but that's kind of an unknown guy, undrafted free agent following the 2020 draft, which was only 5 rounds. The guy has just continued to hit. I know you had him on recently, Joey Loperfido, another guy that I think is a very, very good hitter. Hitting above 300 right now, and he'll get an opportunity in Nashville, I would think, pretty soon. Plays all over the field, good, very good defensively in center field and at first base, which is quite the interesting, position right there. But that he plays both of those, especially at such a high ability. But yeah, that's a couple guys I would think so that are kind of standing out. Kennedy Corona is another guy that just got promoted to High A. You mentioned Quincy Hamilton, another outfielder. J.C. Correa is down there in Nashville, still working on his catching. But still hitting above 300. So despite the overall records of some of these teams, there's still some really good performances, throughout the whole system.
Exactly. So Mr. Corona asked the obvious question. Could Forrest Whitley be up in the majors late September, or is that a pipe dream right now?
I think it's definitely possible. He's on his rehab assignment right now. The last I looked, he was at 2 innings tonight for Fayetteville, struck out 2 scoreless innings. Probably going to do another outing there. Next thing you know, maybe he'll be up in AAA. Once he finishes his rehab, he's on the 40-man roster. When rosters expand towards the end of the season, I think he'll definitely get a look. So if everything goes well with his rehab, yeah, I think he's going to get a chance.
And that's the key to this discussion. A lot of people want to exit. They want to kick Castro off. They want to kick Maldonado out. They just want to bring new blood in. But what they don't realize is a lot of the names we've been talking about tonight aren't actually on the 40-man roster. And if they're not on the 40-man roster, that means whose spot are they going to take? And right now, there's not a whole lot of open spots. Actually, there's none. I mean, it's not like we have like 3 vacancies waiting to fill. I mean, we do have it. And it's just one of those things where what I'm finding, the more I learn about the minor leagues, the more like confusing it becomes because you're like, wait, if this guy, people are calling him Yordan Alvarez Jr., in like 2 weeks, if he's doing this in a month and a half, why isn't he going to touch the field? Well, it's not that easy. Oh, you're producing, you get to come up. Like you got to find a spot. I mean, you got guys with major league contracts. I mean, who did they just let walk, the relief pitcher? I just completely forgot his name. Pedro Baez. Let him walk for $13 million. I mean, they opened up a spot, but they had to cut bait and they had to take that loss financially to keep their team intact. It's like what the heck, So it is definitely chess, not checkers.
For sure. Yeah, those 40 man roster spots are very valuable. And like you said, once a guy gets on there to take them off, you gotta DFA him, which allows him to be picked up. So if the Astros wanted to, add a guy like Emmanuel Valdez, right? They can't just bring him up and then say, oh, Jose Siri's going to AAA because Valdez has to get on the 40-man roster, which means you got to clear a spot. And then that opens up someone else to be able to take him. But that's why guys like Shawn Dubin, who I know we talked about a little bit earlier, but he's on the 40-man roster. He's a guy that I think will probably get an opportunity at some point this year. We've seen the high 90s, 99, 100-mile-an-hour fastball, sharp slider. They're still using him as a little bit as a starter, but I really think he's going to be electric. When he can get that opportunity to be like a 1 or 2 inning relief guy in the bullpen.
I remember interviewing Pete Solomon last year, and I was talking to him about how he saw himself, and he said, "Well, I see myself as a starter." But he goes, I would pose the question, or someone would pose to me, would you rather be a AAA starter or a major league reliever? He goes, I'll take major league reliever any day of the week. He goes,
heck yeah.
you just want to get to the majors. He goes, I believe I'm built to be a starter. I believe that's who I am. But if my spot in the future is to be a long reliever, I'm in the dance. I'm in the big league. So he said, you have to be willing to do what the team needs you to do to be successful in the sport. And sometimes roles change. Pete Solomon, that's an interesting guy. I've seen him pitch twice this year. and he's really struggled. And I don't know if he's going through mechanical issues. I don't know if it's between the ears, but the last year he was a lot more dominant than he
Mhm.
is this year. What have you seen or heard about? Like, what is the report out on him? What are his struggles?
Yeah, I'd have to take a deeper dive into the numbers to really look at it, especially looking at maybe some of the home and road splits. But yeah, for some reason, there's a lot of guys that have struggled a little bit this year in AAA. You know, JP France struggled early on. Jonathan Bermudez struggled. He was the Astros minor league pitcher of the year last year. And then, you know, like you mentioned, Peter Solomon as well. So they've shown some positive ones, but it just seems like they've been getting hit around a little bit more. I don't know if maybe they're working in a new pitch or what, because, you know, JP France the last couple outings have been a lot better. He started to turn it around. So maybe working on a new pitch. It could be something mechanical. It's really hard to tell from just kind of an outside looking in, because you just don't know what they might be working on, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It would be tough. Just to know what's going on. I just know that he seemed a lot more relaxed last year on the mound. Um, so we've got Pete Solomon. We got guys like Shawn Dubin, Korey Lee. The question here is, let's say Maldonado and Castro are both gone after this year. Out of the catching trio in AAA, who do y'all see coming up next year?
I mean, I think Korey Lee is probably going to be the maybe the top option right now. You know, we talk about how his bat maybe hasn't been as good as it was last year, but I still think he has the ability to produce. He's got that high potential, but he's good behind the plate, you know. And maybe they use a guy like Jainer Diaz or another catcher to try to kind of platoon with him a little bit. But I still think he has the best chance to stick at the catcher position, you know, just based on his defense. But yeah, Diaz is right there as well, especially with the bat. And then Berryhill, you know, not too far behind him down in Double-A.
Yeah, definitely. Hold on. So Berryhill, Lee, Yainer Diaz. We've got other guys out there. Who is it going to be? It's definitely going to be, probably like you said, it's probably going to be Korey Lee, and I think he's that guy. I think he has a long leash. I think they have a lot of hope and a lot of promise for him. He seems like a guy that's got it together. When you talk to him, I haven't interviewed him per se, but I've had a few conversations with him this year on the sidelines. And I mean, he's just business as usual. You know, I get so, I don't know. I don't know if I get annoyed or if I laugh at people when they ask a minor leaguer. Like Alex McKenna was batting ninth, and that the game I was at, he was hitting 212. And a guy literally asked him, "So when do you think you're going to get called up?" And I'm like, you don't ask a guy hitting ninth, hitting 212 when he's going to get called up. I mean, but that just goes to show you understanding what goes on in the minor leagues. It's not just like you just wake up and understand it. There's a lot to it.
Oh yeah, no, and there's a lot that guys got to work on. And so one thing I think people need to realize too about the minor leagues is a lot of times, so a 7 o'clock game, right? They're probably getting to the ballpark around maybe 12, 1 o'clock. They get their workout in, they go to the cages, they do some on-field work, and then, you know, then they go actually do the batting practice for the game. They get an actual workout, and then they go compete in the game, right? At 7 o'clock. So after 6, 7 hours of workout, they got to go compete. So it's tough, you know, and I think there's times that guys are just working on things. You know, McKenna did struggle. I know he's back in Double-A, but that's the hard thing. You don't know when guys are working on certain things, when they're trying to do some kind of swing adjustment, when a pitcher's trying to throw a new pitch. Without all that data, it's kind of hard to pick that up. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, you want to see them have success, right? That's the number one key. If they're having success in the minors, you know, it looks like they're ready. But we've seen plenty of guys that have maybe not been as great, you know, in the minors and then have success in the majors. And it comes down to that information, just like Kyle Tucker last year, right? April, he was terrible if you looked at the normal numbers, but you look at his expected numbers, his exit velocities, he was phenomenal. The Astros have the numbers on a guy like Korey Lee. You know, they got numbers on McKenna. They have all that data to be able to determine, is this guy hitting the ball hard? Is he hitting it with the right launch angle? What's the expected batting average, expected slugging? So they have all that information that's not, you know, readily accessible to us to help them better evaluate who's ready for the big leagues and who's not.
Yeah, definitely. After I talk about Blue Nile, I want you to answer Larry the GM. I think he came in. I know we talked a little bit about him, but maybe if we could talk a little bit more about Mr.
Sure.
Valdez, maybe what kind of projectability he has, timeline. But what I want to talk to y'all about is Blue Nile. Blue Nile is the best place to get fine jewelry or wedding jewelry, whether it's the engagement ring or that special gift. And see, Blue Nile was the original jeweler for high income adults, but right now you don't have to worry about that. You're like, well, I'm not a high income adult. I mean, maybe you are. I don't know. I don't. I don't have your bank account, but I can tell you this: they have jewelry for all price points, and it's affordable. And what's cool is they have jewelers on hand 24/7, available by phone or by chat to find memorable gift for you. They help you choose the size, the clarity, the diamond setting, the diamond shape, and all that stuff. They are it. This is a phenomenal product. Blue Nile is the original online jeweler since 1999, and they've helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to BlueNile.com, and Locked On Astros listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement rings, and they use the code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress free. Find your forever peace. Go to BlueNile.com today. So, Enmanuel Valdez. We talked a little bit earlier. We mentioned him. He is one of these guys that you're like, holy crap, what is this guy doing? Like, I remember when, and it's not the 15 or 20 or 30 home runs like Jordan was doing in Tucker, but still, when a guy comes in and hits 3 home runs in one game, I think the only other players to do that was, I believe it was Meyers. And was it Tucker or Jordan? Okay, Pena. Okay.
In Sugarland.
In
their
Sugarland,
franchise history.
Okay, in their franchise history. Yeah. So, but he's a third player to do this. Tell us his timeline. Is he a guy that we see in 2023? I mean, that quickly?
I think, like we said a little bit earlier, I think the hardest spot is going to be, where does he play? You got Altuve at second, which is probably his best position defensively. I mean, obviously he could DH a little bit. They had him at first base a couple games, but he's a smaller guy. He's like 5'9", I think. Plays a little bit of third base, but with the bat, I mean, he's a guy that's got he's got the launch angle down. He hits a lot of fly balls, and fly balls are good if you hit them far, right? So he's got that down. He's drawing walks. He's just hitting the ball hard. I think it's gonna be finding where he plays. Just do the Astros bring him up and maybe let him be kind of a infield utility guy? Either behind Diaz or Dubin, whatever they decide to go with next year. That's going to be the question, I think. But I think the bat this year has shown that it can play at the big league level. He's shown it in AA, AAA. Now it's a matter of finding out where is he going to play in the field.
Now, what do you think about Jake Meyers right now? I know he's hitting like 183. He's coming back from a shoulder injury. Is that 183 indicative of someone coming back from a shoulder injury, getting used to the motion again? Or is that indicative of what we might expect when he comes up to the major leagues and a little bit of a struggle starting out?
Yeah, I mean, he's struggling a little bit, but, like you said, coming off a rehab like that, I mean, a pretty bad injury, obviously. It happened last October. He's just now getting back on the field. It's been a very small sample that he's hit that well, or that poorly, I guess. But really, I would look at it and just think, if he's hitting 180 right now through 10 or 15 games, and we've seen guys go on struggles, right? We've seen that over and over. I just don't think that I would react too harshly to Meyers' struggles. I think he's going to need some more time to figure it out. But, it's just a few games. It's early on in the rehab. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of times the Astros Nation tends to overreact and react a little bit. They just, like, I know I have had to temper my expectations sometimes. I've had to step back and say, I'm not 100% sure if this is what's going on. I know I did that a lot with Dusty Baker. I know a lot of people do that a lot with Dusty Baker. And with Meyers, I mean, here's the thing. This fan base, I'm going to predict it right now. If Meyers comes up and in 2.5 weeks he's not hitting well, you're going to already hear the hemming and hawing. If they end up, I mean, are they going to let go of his Siri? Are they going to trade him McCormick? And the second they make whatever move they're going to make, and if Meyers isn't quote unquote doing what they think he should do, oh my gosh, all the critics are going to come out. Oh, this guy, we told you he wasn't any good. And it's so funny. Everybody's an expert on the Bird app, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the way fans are, right? I mean, we want to see production, and especially when the Astros are playing well, you don't want to give a guy a bunch of opportunities if he's not playing well, and we're expected to go to the World Series. So I think the fans probably would not like if he comes up and struggles, but we've seen it with plenty of guys. Sometimes guys go down bad stretches. It just looks worse when it's at the beginning of the season and he's hitting 100, 20 games into the season. But guys have those bad stretches. I mean, Jordan at some point is not going to hit maybe he will. I know he's hit 452 over his last 20 games. Maybe he won't, maybe he'll continue that the rest of the year, but at some point he's going to slow down a little bit. When that stretch is at the beginning of the season, that's when it looks worse. So yeah, you're right. If he comes up and he struggles right away, Meyers, people are going to be wondering, what the heck. But if he comes up and has a good 10 games and then struggles for 10 games, people are going to understand it. So, but yeah, that's the good question. I don't know. What do they do? Does McCormick or Siri go down? Do they keep Meyers in AAA because he still has options available as well? So that'll be a good question to do with him.
Because someone told me that Siri out of options.
I thought he had one more year left. I'd have to go
on
Fangraphs and look. But I thought this year they could option him. But
okay,
I'd have to double check that. Yeah.
So and I know. I mean, gosh, if one of the players watches this, I don't want them to think we're bad mouthing them. But I always kind of try to ride that line. Like I don't want players to be like, oh yeah, I heard you're talking crap about me. But Siri or McCormick. Let me ask you this: who do you think the Astros value more, Siri or McCormick?
So I think Siri's. Well, I know Siri's been playing a lot more recently. So I think Chaz probably gives you a little bit more with the bat. I think he's despite the big home runs we see from Siri, Chaz seems to be a little bit more consistent with the power. Siri's been phenomenal defensively. Man, they both offer, like, if you could combine the two, I think it'd be really cool to see what they could do. But really, I kind of like the platoon. It just seems recently Siri's been getting a little bit more at bats. I don't know if that's coming from the front office or if that's just Dusty Baker's decision, because the lineup is probably going to be influenced a lot by what the front office has in the analytics. But it's hard to choose between the two. They both do certain things well. But I think if you're looking for offense, maybe you go with Chaz, who's been a little bit more consistent with the bat. If you want strictly defense, then maybe you go with someone like Siri.
Because that was the scouting report on him, was when they found him, they were like, we found a diamond in the rough. We found an elite glove. This guy he's kind of like Jake Marisnick. He's big glove, not really big bat. He can hit big home runs. I talked last night, the longest home run in Minute Maid Park history, Jake Marisnick, 469 feet. I mean, go figure that, right? So someone's asking me, when is Meyers coming back? Do we have a date?
No, I need a look. I think he's got a 20-day window maybe to do his rehab, and then the Astros have to either activate him or however they do it. And then at that point, they're gonna have to make that determination. Do they option him to AAA, or do they do something else? But either way, he's on the 60-man or the 60-day IL, right? Which cleared a space on that 40-man roster. Right. Eventually, when he's taken off the IL, they're gonna have to figure out what to do on the 40-man. So he's probably coming up on that. I feel like he's been in AAA now for at least a good 2 or 3 weeks. So he's coming up on it, I'm sure.
Yeah. I figured it was a day thing. So 20 days or whatever, and then he's done. I can't wait to see him up there. I just think that it was kind of tragic how he had that injury when he had it, because he was one of those guys that I really felt was going to be one of those unsung heroes during that World Series run. And dude, that World Series, to me, I don't know that I like, of the 3 World Series that this team's been in, that was the one where I was like, you know what? The Braves got that. I mean, the Braves just beat the Astros. They just played better. The Astros showed up in the one game I went to, game 2 at home. It was an amazing experience. My son and I, was our first ever World Series game, and there's nothing like it. But it was clear to me that the Braves, they just hit their stride. And, that's what makes me wonder about the playoffs this year, is there's more teams that are going to make the playoffs. And is it going to be one of these unsung teams? Like, some people think the Phillies are going to catch fire and surprise everybody in the National League. The Mets, I think they're going to continue to be the Mets, and they're just going to disappoint their fans over and over again. But I think it was great for the Astros to make a statement. I said last night, Tuesday's win was not a statement game. Wednesday's was a statement game, because up until this game, they were 2-14 or 3-12 in games the day after they scored 7 runs or more. So that was only their four. Actually, that was only their. I think it was their 4th win. They had 3 wins. They had 2 against Minnesota, 1 against the Nationals. So now they're 4-12 in games where the day after they've scored 7 or more runs. So I want to ask you this: when you are covering the minor leagues and when you are talking Astros baseball with these players, what is the thing that you like to focus on when you're interviewing them?
That's a good question. It depends. So if it's the first guy that I've talked to, like the first time I talked to Luke Berryhill, I'd like to talk to him about the trade. Do you want me to come back in,
Yes.
Brett?
Yeah. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah, we'll keep working it. We keep having issues with his mic, so he's coming back in. It should be reset. All right, Jimmy, go ahead.
All right.
Let's
Sure.
do it.
All right. So yeah, like with Luke Berryhill, one of the first things I asked him was about the trade. He got traded from the Reds organization to the Astros right at the beginning of last year. So that to me is interesting to talk to him about. Where he was at, what he heard, what his thoughts were on the trade. But really, it just depends on the player. I think I try to do some research on the background, and I try to ask them, if a guy's versatile, plays a lot of positions, I like to find out where they're most comfortable, what positions they think about adding. Is there anything they're working on, adjustments, maybe what they add to the field that other players don't? If it's a pitcher, a pitch that maybe they're working on, how they feel as a starter versus a reliever, because we know the Astros employ the piggyback system. So I think it just depends, and I'm trying to go down to Corpus Christi this weekend and talk with Will Wagner. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm putting some stuff together, and for him, it's going to be, hey, your dad was an Astro for a long time. Does he have any memories of playing with it or being, maybe at Minute Maid Park as a kid, or even with when Wagner's with the Mets and stuff like that. So that was going to be starting my questions, and then some about his college time at Liberty, and really just do research and try to get to know the guy a little bit. I'll put this out there real quick. Luke Berryhill's from Georgia. He grew up a Braves fan. So I asked him in the offseason and really it was a win-win for him. The Astros win, his organization wins the World Series. If the Braves win, his hometown team wins. So it was an enjoyable World Series for him to watch.
Because these guys are young enough that they don't recall the Braves teams of the 90s or what happened back then. A lot of these kids, I forget how much older I am than them. But Jimmy, I appreciate you coming on, and dude, we'll have to have you back on. We'll get these technical issues worked out. It is
For
totally
sure.
out of our totally out of our control. But we do appreciate everyone coming in, sitting in with us, talking Astros baseball. Later on this evening, around 9:30, 9:45, I'm going to come back on live. I'm going to do another solo show. We're going to do a recap. We got to talk about this Mets series. We got to talk about what's coming our way in the Bronx. And, the Yankees are scared. Yordan Alvarez is coming to town. Alex Bregman has woken up from his slumber. And I think that you have just started to see this offense come out of their shell and really break out. And when they break out, you think they're bad now. Wait until we start beating up the Yankees. So it's going to be a fun next 7 games. Mets, Yankees, Mets, Yankees. It's all New York. It's Texas versus New York. It is us down here, blue collar South Texas against the big metropolitan New Yorkers, So it's going to be fun. Jimmy, last time, tell the people where they can find you and tell them about your website.
Yeah, Astros Future on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Website's astrosfuture.com. Doing my minor league recaps, player interviews, all the notes you need. Did a stock report today talking about some guys that have kind of seen their stock rise over the last few weeks. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I appreciate everyone, following and clicking and reading my stuff.
No, yeah, definitely. And he is a part of the Apollo Network. They brought you in a couple years ago. I know you share your stuff on my Astros 411 page. I appreciate that because you definitely add the stuff that I'm not privy to, and it's gotten me more interested. So if you haven't gone to astrosfuture.com, check him out. He does some great stuff, and his interviews are really good. Like I love reading his interviews. I know he's even had Jake Meyers on the show before. Him and Kenny, they do the Astros Future podcast. So check that out as well. I'm sure you get Apple, Google, or Spotify, right?
That's right.
Wherever there are podcasts. But, that is all for me today right now. But later on, again, we'll come back and we'll do another live show recapping the Astros and Mets, the defeat of the New York Mets, and the hopefully inevitable defeat of the New York Yankees. I'm Shawn Wellhouse. He's Jimmy with Astros Future. It's been fun hanging out. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see you a little bit later. And as always, go Stros.